Greetings, everyone. DFG here. Hey, guys. Just want to take a minute of your time and I have a question for you. Does Yahweh know what your future potential is? Let me ask the question again. Does Yahweh know what your future potential is? Well, can I tell you a story? All right, great. And then I think the answer to that question very well may be inside of the story. Okay, so if you'll bear with me. But that was this very honest and um, righteous guy. This guy had a reputation of being so righteous that he was in a situation where him and his nephew, through investments and good decisions, uh, literally had so much land and property that they could not coincide together anymore. They couldn't live as one, coexist together. I'm sorry. And the elder of the two was the originator of the wealth. He's the one that came up with the idea. He's the one that made the decision. The nephew was fatherless, and so the his uncle, the righteous man that I'm talking about, or the fair man, just man, took him on as a surrogate father, just to make sure that his brother's son, would be well off, or at least be taken care of, not necessarily well off, but taken care of. And as fate would have it, eventually so well off that together collectively they had so much wealth that they literally had to separate. And so what this man said to his nephew, he said, look, our prosperity has become so great now that not only the property and the cattle, but even the people that we've hired to take care of the property and the cattle are now, fighting amongst each other. It's just we have too much going on. So I tell you what, let's do this, says the uncle to the nephew. If you want the right, I'll take the left. And if you want the left, I'll take the right. Your choice, whatever land you choose. Then you can go that way and I'm going to go the opposite direction. And the nephew looked around like so many, ambitious young people can do, and decided that what, the land over to the right was prosperous, a lot of grass. You know what I'm saying? He had heard there was a real, very striving city. As a matter of fact, a couple of striving cities, over there. There were cities called Sodom, and the other city over there was striving very well was called Gomorrah. So the nephew said, okay, well, I'll take that direction. I'll go that direction. So the uncle said, okay, great. You can have that direction. You can go that way. And I'll take the lesser and I'll just go the opposite direction, which he did. Well, later on, the uncle had a visitor came to visit him. Matter of fact, three men. And these three men, when they came to visit him, he invited them to have a meal. So it's always good to be generous. That's something that I'll say to each and every one of you. Something I try to remind myself of as well. Whenever there's an opportunity to share something that I have or to be generous with something that I have, I try to be mindful to do just that. Okay, whenever the opportunity presents itself. Sometimes you can't do those things because of your resources are somewhat limited. But there was those times where you can give. It may hurt a little bit, but not so much where, what I'm saying, you shouldn't do it. And so he invited them, to stop on their journey because they were on their way to those two cities I mentioned a moment ago. And so he invited them to stop and have a meal. And so after the meal, they got up to leave, these three men. And as they were leaving, they said to one another, hey, look, this guy has potential. This guy one day is going to be a very great and influential man. And so maybe we should share with him on where we're going and what we're going to do. And it's interesting is that even though this man, this uncle, didn't see in himself what his future was, these so-called strangers saw his future. And let me just kind of let the cat out the bag. These strangers they happened to be, okay, get ready to brace yourself, all right? They were angels. And I know some of you guys may not believe in angels, and that's okay. You don't have to believe in the angels to hear the story, all right? but angels do exist, and sometimes angels take upon the manifestation of human bodies. It's just a fact. And whether you believe it or not, that's okay. But for those of us like myself who believe it, then this story is probably going to resonate a little bit more with you than maybe those of you who are listening to this story, then it will resonate with you. But anyway, so these angels knew what his potential was because they were told by the Most High, Yahweh, what would happen to this man in the future. Not in his current state, but in the future. And so anyway, that said, they said, well, we can't keep this secret from this guy. This guy, is a good guy, just guy, very hospitable. You follow me? So, he blessed us. Now let me bless him. If you remember my last message, we kind of talked about that. You follow me, to always, be mindful to help others when you can. Remember the widow, and the guy, who she fed, even though she had little, but somehow her little was stretched out until she had more than enough. Well, not unlike that story, very similar. When you have it in your hand to do good, always do it. It's gonna reciprocate itself. It's gonna come back to you. Okay, so just keep that in mind. Don't ever feel bad about doing something good for somebody, even if you feel like they don't appreciate what you did. That's okay. They don't have to appreciate what you did. Now it's your decision to do it or not to do it. And I think you have to be careful because you don't want to be, enabling people by your good. Don't let your good be necessarily evil spoken of. Okay, so there's a time to do good and there's a time not to do good. We're talking about the time to do good right now. And so they shared with him that, they were going to go to that city and they were going to evaluate that city because they had heard in that city there was a lot of, for lack of a better word, debauchery, going on in that city. And you can find this story if you want to read it in Genesis chapter 18, in your Bibles. If you have Bibles at home, you can Genesis 18. It'll tell you the whole story. But inside of this story, okay, the conversation is going on between these angels and Abraham. And they tell Abraham that if things are not what they ought to be in that country, those two cities are going to be destroyed. Now, Abraham, knowing that his nephew, remember, had went to those cities and his nephew was living in one of those cities. So like any concerned parent, any concerned loved one that may be in trouble, we're going to ask some questions like, wait, time out here. Can we have a conversation? This is Abraham talking to these angels. Can we have some dialogue? Because I suspect Abraham knew that things weren't kosher in Sodom and Gomorrah because he quickly started saying, well, can I at least ask a question? Because I know that Yahweh is a just, creator. He's not going to let the righteous suffer with the unrighteous, which is true. Now, there'll be time things will happen, and you may say, well, I don't agree with that, Dale, but you have to see things to its end. You have to see things in its fullest sense. Sometimes bad things may happen that you think are bad, but really are good. Okay, so we shouldn't judge anything before the season. Give it time, and it'll bear itself out, whether or not it's bad or good. Many times things have happened to me that I thought were horrific, and they turned out to be some of the best things that could have ever happened to me, in all honesty. All right, so, and I'm sure you probably can have that. Some of you guys have that same witness as well. So Abraham says to them, okay, I'll tell you what then. If there be 50 righteous people in there, and they told him, by the way, they said, yeah, he would not harm the righteous with the wicked. He would not take it out on the righteous. He's a just creator. He's a just, he's a judge Yahweh, okay? And so he said, well, if there's 50 righteous, this is Abraham, will Yahweh still destroy the cities? And the angel said, no, he wouldn't. If there's 50, he won't do it. Now, these are two cities. He said, okay, what if there's 45 righteous people there? Would he stop? He said, no, if there's 45, he won't. Now Abraham was getting a little anxiety. He's like, okay, man, maybe I might be pushing my luck. He said, what if there's 30? Will he destroy the city if there's 30 righteous? And the angel said, no, he won't destroy it if it's 30. And Abraham said, okay. All right, how about if it's 20? And they said, no, he wouldn't do it if it's 20. Now Abraham said, okay, look, please, don't get upset with me. But what if there are 10 righteous people there? And he told Abraham, no, if there are 10 righteous people within those two cities, Yahweh will spare those cities. And so they left. And the rest of the story goes, they went to that city and they found inside of that city everything that was said about that city in terms of if violations in terms of things that were detrimental to the betterment of the society, to the betterment of mankind long term. Again, you can read the story to find more out about it yourself, what happened in that. But the long story short is this, and this is the thing I would want to say. As you look at these things that are going on around the world, things that are going around the country. Matter of fact, you take California with the big fires that are going on right now. It would be easy to say, where is Yahweh in this? Why would Yahweh allow that to happen? I think right now 35,000 acres. I think it's 30 some odd lives. What else I heard? 7,000 structures, homes have been destroyed. And you would ask, well, where is Yahweh in that? Is Yahweh allowing this suffering, this misery to happen? And I would tell you that if we use the past as our measurement for the future, then I think the answer is in that question. Because you have to look at every environment, including your own environment, your situation, your circumstance. And this is the question that you always should ask, what am I tolerating? Because if you're not tolerating evil things, then you have every right to expect something good to happen in your environment. But at the same time, if you compromise and you're allowing things to happen in your environment that are destructive, things that are in your environment, that we would call a bad report, you know what I'm saying, debauchery for a better word, then those are the things that you're going to be surrounded by all the time, and ultimately those things will entrap you. And as it happened in Sodom and Gomorrah, as you see happening in many places around the world, and in particular, California. You know what I'm saying? California has a reputation. We all know, most of us know California in its reputation. And in many cases, its reputation is not always, what I would call, a good reputation. Okay? And when I mean good, I'm talking about in terms of, what would be seen as righteous, not only by you and I, but more important, what we feel are righteous. What would the Creator see as righteous? Okay? And the Creator's righteousness is a different standard than the standard that we have. As a matter of fact, there's, his thoughts are so much different from the thought of a man that it's as far as from the heavens to the earth. So sometimes our righteousness may seem right to us, but not before the Most High. There's a scripture, a statement in the book of, I want to say Isaiah says that our righteousness before Yahweh is like a filthy rag. And the term filthy rag comes out of, it's a term that was used long time ago before the inventions, all right, respectfully saying tampons, and sanitary napkins. That would have been a filthy rag, or called a filthy rag once the woman had finished using it. And so he says sometimes our righteousness is that way before the Most High. So we can't always go off of our righteousness. We have to line up our righteousness based off of what the Scripture's righteousness is. And you can find that just through a little study, get a general idea. If you say, well, give me something quick, I will tell you go to the book of Galatians, go to chapter 5, go to verses around, I think about 20, 21, and it'll tell you what righteousness looks like, okay? Just if you just need something to weigh that against. And so as you see some of these things going on around the country in some of these places, again, what I'm saying is that there could be a message in that for you, for me, for all of us, and that is, what are we willing to tolerate? Because based off of what we tolerate is what we can expect, okay? Whether it's good or whether it's not good. Ultimately, as in the story, Yahweh is just, Yahweh is fair. And if something like this is going on around our country and our communities, it's probably because there's something going on inside of our communities that we need to focus on, embrace, challenge, correct, okay? And no longer have a, anything goes, mentality, anything goes, do as thy will type of, mentality. Whatever we imagine in our hearts, if we feel good about it, we do it. Well, if we take that approach, it could be very devastating, and I think we're seeing some of that around the world today. All right? So that's, my message I want to share with you. You can control it, but you got to control it by understanding what you allow in and what you don't allow in. All right? Love you guys. Thank you for listening. DFG, Gideon's Flight. Have a great day, guys. Bye now.